and welcome to today's sleep story. I'm Lara, and tonight we'll go on a relaxing sleep journey together. So find a comfortable position, whether lying down or sitting, and gently close your eyes. Take a deep breath in, allowing the air to fill your lungs, and exhale slowly, releasing any tension you may be holding. As you continue to breathe, let go of the worries of the day and bring your attention to the present moment. The year was 2025, and the world was moving faster than ever. Everywhere you looked, technology was advancing. People seemed to be racing through life, always looking for the next thing, the next achievement, the next distraction. But for Ava, the world felt overwhelming. She could never seem to keep up, and no matter how hard she tried, she never felt at peace. She would scroll through her phone, trying to find meaning in the noise, but everything seemed shallow. It was as though something was missing, something important that she couldn't quite grasp. One late evening, after a long day of work, Ava found herself sitting on the edge of her bed, looking out the window at the twinkling lights of the city. The skyline stretched endlessly in front of her, full of people rushing to and from places she couldn't even imagine. Despite the bustling world, Ava felt a deep sense of loneliness, a disconnect from everything around her. She longed for something deeper, something more real. But how could she find it in a world that never stopped moving? She stood up, walked over to the window, and looked outside. The city was alive, but there was something peaceful about the night. The traffic had slowed. The sounds of people's voices were distant, and the moon hung low in the sky, casting its gentle light across the city. She had always found comfort in the quiet of the night. There was something about it that felt familiar, as if it were inviting her to listen closely, to pause, to breathe. That night, for the first time in a long while, Ava decided to go for a walk. Maybe the fresh air would clear her mind, or maybe she needed to feel the world move around her without getting swept up in it. She put on her jacket and left her apartment, stepping into the cool night air. The streets were quieter than she expected, and the only sound she could hear were her footsteps echoing off the pavement. As she walked through the empty streets, the city seemed to hold its breath, as if the world was giving her space to reflect. She thought about how much of her life had been spent running to finish tasks, running to reach goals, running to keep up with everyone else. But in that moment, she realized how little time she had taken to simply be still, to just exist without the need to achieve anything. She kept walking, her mind drifting between thoughts and quiet moments. The more she walked, the more she felt the weight of the world slip away, as if with each step she was shedding the stress that had been weighing her down. There was something magical about this feeling, something that seemed to guide her, as if the night itself was offering her a chance to rest. Ava eventually found herself in front of a park she hadn't noticed before. It was a small, quiet park, tucked away between tall buildings that surrounded it like silent guardians. The park seemed out of place in the midst of the city, peaceful, calm, and full of life. Ava was drawn to it, and without thinking, she crossed the street and entered the park. The moment she stepped onto the grass, she felt a deep sense of calm wash over her. The sounds of the city faded into the background, and all she could hear was the rustling of leaves in the trees and the soft chirping of crickets. It was as if the park was a world of its own, a place where time slowed down. She walked deeper into the park, her senses heightened by the beauty of the night. The trees, the flowers, the pond, it all seemed so alive, yet so still. The world outside was fast and chaotic, but here, in the park, everything was at peace. Ava found a bench under a large oak tree and sat down. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, letting the cool night air fill her lungs. She could feel the weight of the world beginning to lift, and for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to just be. No distractions, no pressure, no worries. Just being in the present moment. As she sat there, she noticed something that she hadn't before. The stillness wasn't just around her, It was inside her too. She felt it in her chest, in her breath, in the quiet pulse of her heartbeat. The peace she had been searching for wasn't something that could be found outside of herself. It had always been within her, waiting for her to stop and listen. She smiled softly to herself, feeling the warmth of that realization settle deep inside her. For so long, she had been chasing after peace, thinking it was something she had to attain. But now she understood that peace was already there, within her, always available if she took the time to connect with it. As she sat in the park, a gentle breeze began to blow through the trees. The leaves rustled softly, like the whisper of an old friend. Ava closed her eyes again, allowing herself to become fully present in the moment. She could hear the sound of the wind, feel the cool air on her skin, and smell the earthy scent of the trees and grass. The world felt alive, yet everything was still. Ava stayed there for a while, lost in the simplicity of the moment. The city around her was still awake, still alive, but she felt no need to rush. She had nowhere to be, nothing to do, and that was exactly what she needed. The idea of being still, of simply existing without the constant pressure to move, was a revelation. She had spent so much of her life moving at a pace that didn't allow her to truly experience the world around her. As the night grew darker, Ava felt a deep sense of peace settle over her, as if she were merging with the stillness of the park itself. She didn't need to understand everything. She didn't need to solve any problems. All she needed to do was be present. She knew that this feeling of peace was something she could return to anytime, just by slowing down and taking a moment to breathe. The stars began to twinkle in the sky above, and Ava felt a deep sense of connection to them. The vastness of the sky reminded her that she was part of something much larger than herself. Everything in the world, from the smallest leaf to the furthest star, was interconnected. She wasn't alone. She never had been. The peace she had been searching for wasn't separate from the world around her. It was part of it, and part of her. Ava stood up from the bench, feeling a renewed sense of energy. The park had given her more than just a moment of calm. It had given her a new perspective on life. She could carry this sense of stillness with her, no matter where she went or what she did. The world may always be fast and noisy, but she had the power to slow down and find peace in the middle of it. She made her way back to the park gate, her steps slower now, more deliberate. As she left the park, she looked up at the sky one last time, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. The peace she had found wasn't something that could be taken away. It was always there, inside her, waiting for her to return. The next day, Ava woke up feeling different. She felt lighter, as though a burden had been lifted from her shoulders. She knew the world would still be busy, still full of noise, but now she understood that she didn't have to carry all of it with her. There was a stillness inside her that was always there, no matter what. She could return to it whenever she needed to. Over the following weeks, Ava made small changes in her life. She began to wake up a little earlier each day, just to sit in stillness for a few minutes before the world started its hustle. She took more walks through the park, not to escape the world, but to connect with the peace that was always available. She found herself smiling more, talking to people with more presence, and living each day with a deeper sense of awareness. Life didn't become perfect. The noise of the world didn't disappear. But Ava learnt how to stay centered, no matter what. She learned that peace wasn't a destination, but a practice. A practice of slowing down, of breathing deeply, and of being present with whatever came her way. One evening, as Ava sat by the window of her apartment, watching the city come alive with lights, she felt a sense of fulfillment that she had never known before. The world outside was still fast, still chaotic, but she had found something much more valuable: the stillness within. It was her anchor, her place of peace, no matter what the world might bring. And as she drifted off to sleep that night, Ava knew that no matter where life took her, she would always have the stillness inside her to return to. It was always there, waiting for her in every moment, and that was enough. Good night.